This is Campus Voices, issues, news, and notes from the campus of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, a public affairs presentation of 90.3 KRNU. Good morning. Welcome to Campus Voices. I'm Rick Alloway. Thank you for your time this Sunday morning. Our guest this morning is Adam Clayton Powell III. He is a senior fellow in the Annenberg School of Communication and Journalism at the University of Southern California and director of the university's Washington programs for their Center on Communication, Leadership, and Policy. Our focus this morning is in his role as the executive director of USC's Election Cybersecurity Initiative, which is shooting to provide training for all 50 states to reinforce election integrity and to build defense against digital attacks. And they just had the version of that panel for the state of Nebraska conducted on June 18th, which was in cooperation with panelists from the UNL Law College's Center for Nebraska Governance and Technology, the Space, Cyber, and Telecom Law Program, and my own University of Nebraska-Lincoln College of Journalism and Mass Communications. He joins us via Zoom today. Adam, welcome back. We're glad to have you back in Nebraska via Zoom.
Thanks, Rick. Good to be with you, and thanks to you and all your colleagues who I think set a pretty high bar for a university partnership. It really worked very well.
Well, we appreciate that. Adam Clayton Powell III, a long, lengthy list of professional journalistic accomplishments, including time spent with CBS News as VP of News for National Public Radio, as news director for 1010 Wins in New York City, along with working for the Freedom Forum, the Museum. Oh my goodness, your list goes on forever. I could talk with you for hours about our journalism backgrounds and interests, but let's talk about the Election Security Initiative. And I want to start by going back to its genesis. What got this on your radar to begin with, and how did it get started?
Well, we've actually been working on this for close to 5 years. And it'll be great to say that we were brilliant and we foresaw all of this happening, but that's not the case. What happened in 2015 is that we'd been running a series of meetings in Washington, D.C. To increase the public service features of mobile phones. And one of the people who came to those meetings was a guy named Vint Cerf, who with Bob Kahn really did invent the internet back in the 1960s. And at some point around the middle of 2015, he said, "Why are we talking about mobile phones?" I said, "Well, that's what this meeting is about. That's what this whole series of initiatives is about." He said, "Well, you can buy a coffee maker now with an IP address. So don't you really want to secure everything connected to the internet?" And everybody around the table sort of nodded. Said, "Okay, no more mobile phones. Let's talk about securing everything connected to the internet." And so that's how we began on this path. And then in 2017, in 2016, after the 2016 election, it was pretty clear that elections were going to be a big piece of this. And the chairs of the House committees on Homeland Security and the House Committee on Science, Technology, and Space, Mike McCall and Lamar Smith, met with us, and we started working with the federal government on cybersecurity issues. And then in 2017, the National Governors Association approached us and said, would we be their university partner? So we put together a team which included not only the Annenberg School of Communication and Journalism, but also School of Engineering, School of Public Policy, the Business School, Law School, so on and so on. USC's president said, this is not just an engineering problem, it's going to affect every part of what we do in research and teaching. So we had some funding in 2019 to begin to work directly with state governments and state capitals. After a series of competitions, 6 states were selected, and we began doing closed-door, high-level workshops for state election officials. And then a little less than a year ago, we were approached by Google, and they said, "How would you like to do all 50 states?" And after I recovered my breath, I said, all 50 states, yeah, that's a multi-million-dollar campaign you're talking about. And they said, yes. I said, well, we don't have time to get this through your hierarchy. It's in my budget already. Oh, did I give you a card? So, and literally in 20 minutes, we worked out the details, not all the details, but the basic elements of what we're doing now, which is to visit all 50 states. Of course, with the limitations now on travel and meetings, we had to pivot to do them remotely by Zoom and by video. But originally, the plan was to be on the ground in all 50 states, certainly including Nebraska, and with cybersecurity training for people in campaigns, people in elections, and very different from our previous programs, open to the public. So anybody could come. We've had lots of students come. We've had lots of faculty members come. We got people come from different industries. And still our focus has been on people in campaigns and people in elections. And thanks to you and your colleagues, we had quite a turnout in Nebraska last week.
Yes, I was pleased to see that. I think I counted over 60 people, at least at one point, plugged in, and I don't know how that holds up to some of your other states, but that makes me think that it is an issue that is of concern for all of us, and it's not just a Nebraska issue. It's not just an American issue. It's an international issue. And I recall having led a couple of tours of students studying abroad in Ireland back in 2015 and 2016, that the Irish Republic was wrestling with this exact same concern about how they were holding their elections and making sure that they were keeping a close eye on a lot of the not just the cybersecurity issues, but just protecting the results and not rushing to judgment on things. And the Irish people were cool with that. They didn't need to know everything immediately. They were willing to make sure that the votes were counted properly and accurately. And I thought at the time, wow, they're onto something in 2015. And then 2016 rolled around here. And in the aftermath, all the concerns that have been raised about the potential of international interference. And I think it got us thinking about 2020 before 2016 was even over with.
You're quite correct that 2016 was a real wake-up call for the United States. And you're also absolutely correct that it's an international issue. Every democracy is under attack, and it varies from country to country. There's an organization that doesn't get a lot of publicity. They don't want a lot of publicity, called the International Foundation for Electoral Systems. And they basically work with governments, with democracies around the world to secure their elections. And they worked in Indonesia, India, Ukraine, wherever there's a democratic election. They try to help the government. They don't want a lot of publicity because they don't want to be seen as, we're the smart Americans. We're going to go in and help the other folks. Well, no, they say it's their election. There are different laws, different rules in each country. And all we want to do is be of whatever help we can. The other thing they do is they want to watch to see how each country is attacked. Because they said Indonesia in some ways was the rehearsal. India was the dress rehearsal. The Ukraine was the show, and we're the big prize.
Along that same line, in terms of the international involvement, and I know those efforts have been going on around the world. What do you think were the big takeaways in terms of cybersecurity from the 2016 election, and how has that informed, or should it inform, how we face the one coming up here in a few months?
Well, what 2016 really showed us is that as one of the leading people in election security in the federal government, he says this is really like the old Smokey the Bear PSAs, where only you could prevent forest fires, well, only you can stop cyber hacks, because these attacks are going to go after everybody. And so everyone has to be aware of it. Just before we did our Nebraska program, we did a program for North Dakota. And the governor there said that the Russians are going after tiny school districts with 200 people in them. Why are they going after tiny school districts? Because they want to get into the home networks of the students in those districts. Why? Because their parents are National Guards people who are guarding our Strategic Air Command missile air bases and missile locations. So even if you're a tiny 200-person school district, you can come under sustained attack from Russia, China, Iran, anybody from around the world.
That's so eye-opening, and I know in relation to COVID-19, a lot of people